Everybody, thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. And I'm here with my beautiful, sexy, gorgeous wife. Say hi, boo.
Hi everyone, this is Akdi and I'm from Turkey. And today we are reviewing Paradise Lost.
Yes, this is our 128th film that we're reviewing in our movie review series. And this is a drama slash horror slash psychological thriller.
Oh my god.
Slash African sex piece OnlyFans video that is gone awry. It's just a weird ass film, I would say. It's a film about this old Austrian woman who goes to Mombasa, Kenya for like a week-long getaway and ends up becoming a sex tourist there with a group of other middle-aged Austrian women who are baking in the sun and chasing young Kenyan tale. So yeah, we watched this film last night and I can say that I enjoyed it, and there's a lot that this film really makes me think about and contemplate, and there's a lot to devour in it. But how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I really thought this movie was very intriguing because I thought it was so layered, because none of the themes you can just take it out and then look at it on its own. Like everything is so complex, and I feel like the characters are complex, their struggles are complex. So that's why I really like this movie. And I also really enjoyed the cinematography overall. Like it was just so, I don't know, magical in a sad way, I guess.
Yeah. So the director and writer of this film is a man named Ulrich Seidl. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. I do not speak any German. 9-0 zilch. Anyway, Ulrich Seidl, he's known for making documentary-style naturalistic films, similar to the style of the director of Black Venus. I believe his name is Abdel Kichi or something like that, a French director, and where it feels like, you know, this film that you're watching is actually something real that's actually happening in front of you. And there's no extra music in the background. There's no overacting. Many of the actors are first-time actors. And I believe that the way he put this film together really makes you feel like you're watching something that is, you know, playing out right in front of you in a very sort of authentic type of way. It doesn't come across as a forced drama. It feels like sort of like you're watching somebody's life and either projecting, you know, positivity or negativity on how you perceive the characters. So that's what I think is interesting about this style of directing and writing. But what did you think about it?
Yeah, I definitely agreed. It has that documentary feeling and everything feels so raw. And I think it's good in a way that it lets you feel all the emotions with, and also like all the beauty that Kenya has, but also a lot of like things that are not beautiful as well, about the characters, about the place. So it just lets you, you know, sink all of that in as you're watching it. And
the way to describe these documentary style, you know, aesthetics that the film has is like many of the shots feel like it's just a still camera on a tripod. But within that still frame, you get to experience the room. And like there's this one shot where like the main character, the older mother, enters her daughter's room, and you get to see all the posters on the wall from all of her favorite teen bands and stuff like that. And then there's other scenes when she's just walking on the beach. It's a still camera, and then you see like strong African men doing backflips on the beach while this old white woman just walks, you know, looking at seashells. So it creates this sort of scenery where it's like this feels a little bit fantastical, but it reminds you of real life as well at the same time, which is a very interesting way of shooting.
Yeah, there are definitely scenes that feel unreal, like the one that you just mentioned. But I feel like also when you travel anywhere, you have those kind of moments where, like, this is so weird. I've never seen this in my life. And this kind of feels fantastical. Like, that's kind of how I was feeling when we were in Kenya and Tanzania, and we saw all those women carrying huge baskets of fruit on their head.
Multiple baskets.
And walking like they're just they don't have anything on their heads.
Yeah.
And for me, like, that was like, this is kind of magical, you know? Like, this looks like magic, and maybe it was that for me.
You know that meme where people say so-and-so is not real? like in a lot of ways, East Africa is not a real place. You know what I mean? Because like you just described, you see like a woman walking with like 30 baskets on her head. You know, guys who are able to do back stands on the, you know, backwards and walk on their hands like spiders and stuff like that. Crazy shit. We saw some of the crazy. Every time I go to Africa, I get fucked up. And boy, oh boy, watching this movie a bit was different for us because not recently, but a very important moment in our lives, we went on our honeymoon, extended trip throughout Africa. We went to Mauritius, Tanzania, and Kenya. And literally where they shot this movie is where we were, you know, in Mombasa, Kenya. And so we were watching it and looking at the beach and it was like, literally, we went right there. We walked down this street. Maybe some of those taxi drivers, the tuk-tuk guys drove us. You know what I mean? That's how real this film is. And I don't think we've had that experience with any film we've watched. Yeah.
This was the first time where we literally saw the scenes where we went. And I think also it brought back like a lot of some of the emotions that we felt there. Not that we were sex tourists.
No, not at all.
But just like, you know, just being there, enjoying the scenery, and then maybe getting harassed by like the guys who sell necklaces and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, also another thing, you know, going back to how this film is made in this natural style. So I perused the Wikipedia article and I looked up how Ulrich put together this film. So he started writing this script with, I believe, his partner. And, you know, they wrote this story about a family going on a trip to like Africa or somewhere very, very distant from Austria. And they end up becoming sex tourists and looking for love in different ways, right? But then he ended up splitting up the story and ended up focusing just on this one story of this woman named Teresa, who ended up being, you know, the main character of this film. And this film, Paradise Love, is a part of a trilogy, a Paradise Love, Paradise Faith, and Paradise Hope, I believe. I can't find Hope anywhere online, but I found Faith. I kind of want to finish the story. But the way he put this, the way he did the acting and everything, right, he basically said, okay, you know, I found my actress who plays Teresa, and her name is Margaret TSL, right? An unknown actress, you know, just a random Austrian woman. And, you know, he said, okay, this is the scene, this is what's happening, now talk. There was no official script for any of the actors. And that was how they sort of put the story together. They just sort of kind of let it naturally happen through the situations they put the actors in, which I think it opens up another can of worms. And the last thing I'll say is that Ulrich could have went to he said he thought of going to other countries, right? To do this story about female sex tourism, because if you look up on the map, women go to places as far as Indonesia, they go to Mexico, Jamaica, Barbados, whatever, for sex tourism. But he picked Kenya in specifically because of the added layer of the historical colonialism and racism and things like that. So that's why I think this is an interesting film. And I just wanted to know what you think about all of those things right there.
I think, like, now that you said it, I can see how the script is also very natural. Like, sometimes it's weird, but it never really feels rehearsed, and I can see that. And it does open another can of worms, because now we don't know, okay, this unknown lady, just random lady, is this really what she thinks? Is it not? Was she just trying to portray someone like that? Is this, you know, a stereotype in her country? And things like that, and same for like the Kenyan actors that were there as well. So it does make you question, like, what are they like in real life?
Exactly, because like there's some comments that the actors make throughout this film that are like borderline racist, and it's like, okay, if somebody just put a camera in front of you and said, okay, just talk in this scene, and the first thing out of your mouth is, boy, those black people are shiny. What the fuck, bitch, what? Yeah. Wait, that's what comes out of your soul? That's what your spirit is telling you? That's crazy to me. You know what I mean?
But then also it could be like, okay, this is what I'm expected to do. This is kind of like the script, because I'm sure they gave them some sort of like, you know, narrative. So maybe then she was just acting towards that.
Yeah.
Then we don't know.
I don't know. If somebody just put a camera in my face, I wouldn't just start going off about the Jews. It's out of nowhere. Like, what? Like, that's wild to me. But, you know, I get what you're saying. It is related to the story. And, you know, when I read the wiki article about this film, Ulrich basically shot all 3 movies in the same time, and he didn't know what to do with it. He thought about telling the 3 different stories all in one film, but he thought this story was so compelling that it deserved its own film. And so that's how he decided to make a trilogy out of these films, which I think is a very good thing, because if this film was spliced up with like what was happening in Austria and what was happening in Kenya, I think the story wouldn't have been as compelling or moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I also think this topic of like female sex traveling is very like unique, and it's kind of like underrated, because most of the time I feel like women don't go out searching for sex work as much as men do, because most of the time we are like preyed on by men, and we assume that we can get whoever we want as long as we want to give ourselves to them. But what happens when no one in the society desires you, and you lose that power of sex as a woman, and then that's when sex work happens. But I feel like it's not really like that for men. Like men, even if they can get a woman by trying, they might also just want to pay for it and get sex work as well.
I disagree with you a bit right there. I know that maybe absolutely female sex tourism is not as big as male sex tourism for many reasons, because, you know, men are, you know, socialized to desire sex more and also have more access to money to travel to Thailand and smash the ladyboys and all that. But, you know, it's actually kind of bigger than you would think it is. When I looked it up, you know, female sex tourism is like very rampant, you know, in places like Indonesia, Mexico, Colombia, et cetera, right? And there's also this other thing where it's called situational sex tourism, where the girlies might travel and go somewhere and hook up with somebody, and they don't consider that exactly like sex tourism, because it wasn't intended to go there to sleep with somebody or find men, you know, to use and abuse and stuff like that. But if it happens, it happens, and they're more, you know what I mean? So situational sex tourism is very big for women. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I feel like that kind of tourism is only made by specific women of a specific age and look. Rather than I feel like male sex tourists are all ages and all groups. So that's why I feel like I don't want to generalize it. Of course, maybe there's like a 30-year-old woman who loves to get gigolos and go for it, girl. But like I feel like most of the time it's those women who are deemed undesirable by the society, so they go out of their way to get to sex.
Right. There is that, the fact that you might feel undesired, but there's also the exoticism of it. You might, you know, not be able to find men of a certain type if you live in a certain place in a certain country in the West, right?
Yeah.
So you go to a faraway place where there's a type of person that you might not be able to see, and you're attracted to it because it's exotic. And that might be fetishization or whatever, but that's unfortunately what a lot of people do, men and women. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I would just assume, like, if you're a woman, just a regular woman, like, I would just go there and be with those men, like, without really paying. Like, not indulging in sex work, but just hooking up with people.
Right. But in this film, you know, Teresa isn't exactly paying these men, but we'll talk about that more. So there's a lot to break down. Let's just walk through this movie very quickly. It's kind of easy. So we meet this woman named Teresa, and she works as, we assume, a specialist in healthcare for like the mentally disabled. And the first 2 or 3 minutes of the film is Teresa at a bumper carts arena monitoring these, you know, what looks like autistic or special needs kids bumping cars, right? And she's like, go slow down, don't go too fast now, stop. And, you know, the kids are just, you know, smiling and laughing as they bump each other in the cars. Then, you know, we see Teresa in her home life, and she lives in a small apartment with her daughter in Austria. She walks into her daughter's bedroom, and she tells her, you know, you need to pack up, you need to get ready. What did I tell you about this and that? And take your shoes off the bed, like being like, not a harsh mom, but we see her be like, you know, like a regular mom who comes in and tells you what you need to do and then, you know, leaves, right? And so, yeah, her daughter gets dropped off at what I think is one of her friend's house. And, her daughter and Teresa seem to have like kind of like what might look like a cold relationship, or just like the typical teenager adult sort of relationship where it's like you barely talk to your parents, you're always looking down on your cell phone and stuff like that. And so yeah, Teresa is getting ready to go on her big trip to Kenya. In the beginning parts of the film where we see Teresa's life in Vienna, Austria, is just very brief, but I think it relays a whole lot on how to break down her life and where she is in her life. So yeah, what did you think about the opening scenes?
It was definitely an interesting choice, because I was like, okay, what does that have to do with the whole story?
What is an interesting choice?
Like to have, autistic people just in a playground, in bumping cars and stuff like that. So yeah, it was an interesting choice, but I felt like it was trying to show us that Teresa was a good woman. And she was like helping her society. She was a regular working class single mom, and it also made me relate like a lot to my own mom, because I saw her kind of like, losing herself, maybe not taking care of herself enough when she was going through a certain age, like menopause and stuff like that. So I feel like it's definitely real when women get caught up and kind of forget that, they should be taking care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Teresa looks like the type of woman as a single mom, right? And we don't know, like the film never really breaks down how she became a single mom, but, we just kind of can fill the gaps in that, she had to sacrifice her own life and appearance for her daughter and gave her daughter everything. And I really put that piece together when I watched this film the second time, and I noticed that, Teresa's daughter has like a new iPhone that has like, touchscreen and everything. And then Teresa walks out in front of the house before she goes on her Africa trip and says, "Hey everybody, let's take a selfie." And she pulls out the Nokia 1, like the phone that you played Snake on, and had to flip it this way to like take a selfie with her family and stuff. That was that let me know like, okay, Teresa probably gave up so much of her life for her daughter and stuff like that. But I really think that opening scene of the autistic kids was very important, because I think that scene makes us ask this question about us as the audience. What are we really watching? What are we observing? Are we watching people just having fun and not really being conscious of the consequences, just like these kids in these bumper cars and stuff like that? Or, are we watching people that are being, sort of pushed and ushered and moved in a certain way to make certain decisions and act certain ways? You get what I'm saying? That's what I really thought. I thought that first opening scene was very, related to us as the audience. It was telling us something about this film, like as for our observation. But any comments on that?
I mean, like I said, I thought it was kind of giving us this background about Teresa, that she was a good woman, that she was trying to help, and she was just trying to survive. But I see your point. Yeah.
So very quickly we jump into going to Africa, and the movie moves very quickly. I like the pace and speed of this movie. It doesn't waste too much time being sentimental, because in the beginning, like the Austrian scenes make it like kind of very boring and staid, like any sort of like typical European drama. But then we jump to Jumbo, and next thing we see is Teresa in the back of like this a van that you would see going on safari with her suitcases on the top, and she's in the van with a bunch of other white people, and you look out the window and you see the poorest black people you've ever seen in your life running everywhere across the streets, and a man on the microphone talks to the white Europeans and says, "Welcome to Kenya, Karibu Sana. I teach you words you need to know. You hear this every day. Jambo." Jambo, and boy, Jambo to us is a traumatizing word. That's a trigger word. We hear Jambo and wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweats. My God, but yeah, it was. She goes to this hotel. They don't give the name of the hotel, but we looked it up. It's actually the Flamingo in Mombasa, which is not that far from Shanzu Beach. So, by the way, subscribe to Backpack Bandits. Subscribe to Backpack Bandits to see what we're talking about. But yeah, she makes it there to this hotel, and she has this lovely room where she opens the windows and she sees the beach, and it's just beautiful. The palm trees, monkeys are climbing everywhere. She goes into the bathroom and sprays everything and wipes it down very methodically. She sees a monkey on her balcony and tries to feed it bananas and take pictures of it, but the monkey doesn't want to. So Teresa is in a totally different world when we see her now in Africa, and it really strikes you as the audience too watching that part of the film. But what do you think of that?
Yeah, I felt like in the beginning when she was in the van and trying to like say the Swahili words, she was like kind of interesting. She was kind of invested trying to exactly mimic the words and stuff like that. And then I think her imagery in the hotel room, we see her like in her underwear, probably it's really hot. And I thought it was such a, like you said, striking image, because most of the time, like especially in Hollywood movies, we see like tan, fit girlies, and it's their story. But then here we see like just a regular, mom in her maybe 50s or so, and it's just she's there with all of her baggage from years, and it sort of looks, I don't want to say this because I feel really bad saying this, but I'm just gonna say it in quotation marks, it kind of looks grotesque in like a heaven travel environment that you expect. So yeah,
that's kind of, I get what you're saying, because it's like you're in this beautiful place, surrounded by beautiful nature, but your body is out of nature or out of whack, because when you live in the West, you know what I mean, you have sedentary lifestyles, you're eating more processed foods, and your body sort of doesn't become as natural as the environment would make it, right? Because like in this film, when we look at the African people, like they look super healthy because they've been eating nothing but coconuts and air sandwiches all their life. So okay, that was not funny. This is not landing. But
that's also like true as well. Like when you go there most of the time, there's a lot of poverty, and I think that affects it too. But people eat healthier. Yeah. Maybe without intention, but they do eat healthier.
Yeah, but generally in the West you're eating more processed foods. But generally she's old too. Yeah. And thinking about the opening scenes when she's going around the hotel, and you see the stark differences in the way people live, which hits you if you've ever been to Africa or any other like developing nation for vacation. Chris Rock tells this joke. He's like, when you land in Jamaica, you see the worst poverty you've ever seen, but then you make it to the hotel and you say, Jamaica's kind of nice. And so like in the beginning of the movie, like you see out the window of the van all these poor African people, and then when she makes it to the hotel, she sees you see on the beach, all the white people are laying on these, benches. They're tanning in the sun. They're just relaxing. And then right across the rope on the beach, you see like the poor Africans just waiting there, like waiting like wolves for people to cross over the rope line so that they could try to sell them stuff, persuade them to, go with them and go, just try to get money from them and everything like that. It's kind of a very stark, the contrast the movie makes very quickly.
Yeah, I think even watching that, I was really uncomfortable. We've never seen that while we were in Kenya.
Yes, we did to some degree.
Like I never seen a rope and then like guys just waiting outside and the tourists like there. Of course, there's like a sort of an invisible divide, but it wasn't as clear like that. And I was also thinking like, it's kind of uncomfortable. Like I don't think I would be uncomfortable just laying in the front line of the hotel like that while 30 Kenyan men in front of me like just staring, waiting to sell me things. So yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like you said, we didn't see an explicit rope, but if you're talking about the divide, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like you can clearly see like, okay, you're not supposed to be over here unless you're a rich white tourist who's coming here to spend some money. You know what I mean? And I even felt like we weren't even supposed to be in certain places because we're like, oh, this is for the rich folks and stuff like that. But what I like about Kenya and Tanzania, though, is that they don't really have private beaches. So, like, the way that it's able to work over there is, like, anybody, all the Kenyans and Tanzanians have access to the beach because it's their country and stuff like that. Yeah, it makes it hard if you're, like, a tourist there because you will have just random poor people coming in trying to sell you everything and bother you and solicit you for stuff. So, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. But moving forward in the story, so we see this divide happen, on the beach, and Teresa meets up with this other woman who's there after playing games with her at this hotel resort and stuff like that. And she's another Austrian woman. I believe her name is Inge. And Inge has been coming to Kenya a long time. And she's sort of like well adjusted to the environment. And Inge is telling Teresa, like, listen, wait till you get an African man. Their skin, taste, and smells so different. You'll just want to eat them up. Ooh, isn't the air here electrifying? Ooh, my titties are just exploding. And so, yeah, she was really hyped up on everything. And, she's telling Teresa to get ready for, what they're really there for, which is the man. They want the man. So, what did you think of that Inge when we got introduced to Inge and Teresa?
I thought their interaction, like, Inge seems more confident, like, she knows what she's there for and she's not ashamed and she's going for it. And it's also felt like she doesn't really have a problem, like, paying the money. But when it comes to, like, Teresa, I felt like, what is she really there for? Is she there to enjoy the beach and have a nice time, or was she actually thinking of, like, hooking up with a Kenyan guy or something like that? So I was trying to kind of understand, what is Teresa there for actually, and did she get influenced by, like, the other Austrian ladies at the hotel?
I think Teresa might be an example of what I'm calling situational sex tourism. She might not have went there with that intention. There is no indication or any sign that she went there specifically to have sex with African men. But it's the way it turns out. That sort of turns into all she wants to do. I think Inga really put it in her head like, oh, this is an option for you here. This is a way for you to have access to love, something that you probably have been missing in Austria. So that's what I think. I think she got motivated and turned out by Inga. But
yeah, and, like, obviously there was the fetishization of the black body, but I think there was also, like, just this clear entitlement because Teresa was kind of, like, anxious, like, oh, what do I supposed to do? Like, should I shave? Should I, do this or that? And then the other ladies were like, no, just relax. Like, just be you, and then they will just approach you, and it will happen. So it was sort of that entitlement from them coming through as well.
Yeah, there was a conversation between Inga and Teresa right after they, first met and talked at the bar, where Inga is saying, like, I tried to do everything for my man. I cut my hair, he hated it. I let it grow, he hated it. I shaved my bush, he didn't like it, whatever, stuff like that, right? And then she starts saying stuff like the Africans like everything wild, natural, and free. And here I can just be myself and, people will come to me. And I was thinking about this, man, because this is what makes the film so hard. Because this film is like kind of an intersection between, the base desires that all humans have to be wanted, loved, appreciated, and relaxed with your own self. And also an intersection of, like, feminism and, like, the idea that women should have options and be, free to choose who they want to choose and be who they want to be with, right? And also intersecting with, like, these poor black men and stuff like that, who are just trying to make a better life for themselves. And I was like, is it really that wrong what Inga is saying? If seeking pleasure is sort of like what everybody wants to do in their life, most people want to be happy and have good fun in their life. Is what she's saying really wrong, though? Is it wrong just to say, I want to be myself and go to a place where young boys are going to throw that dick at me?
Okay. I mean, I think everybody knows at this point that sex work has been around for centuries. And I don't think sex work is a bad thing. I don't think people who want sex work are bad people or they are committing a sin or whatever. But I do think the nuances matter. And sometimes, most of the time, I would say with Teresa and Inge and all the other ladies, the nuance is lost. And objectification and fantasization, I don't know the word, happens. And that's where I think it sort of becomes problematic. But I think it also highlights this problem of just us in our societies, like Western societies, that the value of a woman goes to zero, basically, significantly low when they become mothers, when they become fatter, or when they become a certain age, when they go through menopause and things like that. So I think it's just like, so what I was feeling was Teresa is trying to fill that void by doing something exploitative.
I just wonder if the exploitative angle is sort of lost when the people don't feel like they're doing the exploitation. I think a lot of people in this world are very ignorant about a lot of things. They're not like you and I, who talk about these things and try to educate ourselves on these things and understand how these things come into play. A lot of people just sort of live life and say, yeah, racism might exist, but I'm not racist. I'm obviously not racist. I'm here in Kenya trying to get some dick. I'm spending money with them. I'm living with them. I'm partying with them. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really know about all that colonialism and stuff. Many people are just ignorant about all this stuff. So how much can I just look at this and say, Teresa and Inge and all these ladies just might be ignorant about everything that's going on. Most people don't even know or, God forbid, care about what happened to black people, why Africa is the way it is and Austria is the way it is. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I feel like that's just kind of turning a blind eye to it. Like, you have the privilege as a Westerner to learn about these things and educate yourself and acknowledge it. Like, you don't have to act differently. You can still go to Kenya for sex work if that's what you want, because those are sex workers who also need equality of work as well. But like, just acknowledge certain things, and I feel like they were just not doing that.
But what is she supposed to do to acknowledge it? Like, in the middle, say, I'm sorry for colonialism?
I'm
sorry for neocolonialism and resource extraction? What is...
No.
Like, in her country, she works as a low-paid, government worker helping autistic kids. Mm-hmm. Most of those people really aren't, reading theory and history and all sorts of stuff about, the issues of Africa.
Yeah, but once again, with privilege comes... I think should come responsibility. And I feel like a lot of people turn a blind eye to it. I don't think at this point in our world, I just don't know about it is an excuse. If you don't know about it, then learn about it. Especially if you're traveling there. Like, when you travel to someplace else, you look up all kinds of things. Where to go, where to eat, what to do, what not to do. Then I think you should also spend time to search about the history of a place and things like that. Mm-hmm. Or at least attend a tour or something. I don't know. When we were in Africa or any country that we go to museums. Mm-hmm. We didn't really see Teresa going to a museum.
No. She was not doing that.
Yeah, so I think museum. I do feel it's turning a blind eye to it.
I get you. I just think, there's more people that just want to have fun and live life blind to this sort of stuff, and really just go on vacation to shut their brains off. And they might know a problem exists in a place, but they don't feel like they're part of that problem. It's amazing how people can compartmentalize things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a preacher that says porn is wrong. They watch porn every day, but they say, "Oh, but I'm doing it just for me."
Yeah.
I just don't want to spread it to other people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's ways people just split their brain.
Yeah, and that's about comfortability. Like, they don't feel comfortable enough maybe to admit or acknowledge certain things. And, I think you can acknowledge and admit certain things and talk about certain things and still have fun. We had fun, So, I don't think, it's necessarily disruption in a way of, Teresa getting dick in Africa.
Right. I think, for Inge, Teresa, these old white Austrian ladies that are going there, I do think, though, there is this little bit in them that says, this place might have been fucked up through many years of colonialism and oppression by basically white people that came there. But you know how white people are. They say, it wasn't us, it was somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I think in their minds, looking at this, they're going in there the same way, you know, Hungarians say, we can't be racist because we didn't do slavery, or something like that. Yeah. And all sorts of crazy stuff. So I think, I don't know if I'm being like, if I'm tripping by saying like, I actually don't feel that, you know, judgmental of them in a negative way for Teresa and Inge. In the beginning. In the beginning. It's crazy how it oscillates back and forth for me. Yeah. You know?
I think that's kind of what the movie does, though. Like, I'm not saying this because I hate Teresa or Inge. Mm-hmm. I do feel a level of sympathy for them. Mm-hmm. But I think the movie does balance, like a good balance of really you're not really hating anyone, and then you're not really loving anyone either in this movie. You're just sort of accepting the circumstances of what is happening.
Yeah. Accepting it, but also you can't help but feel like, is this right or is this wrong? Going back to the beginning with the kids in the bumper cars who are autistic, right? Because it could have been regular kids, but I think there was a reason they were autistic, right? I think there was a reason. And I think it goes to show, like, you know, are you supposed to laugh at this? Are you supposed to cry about this? Are you supposed to feel sad about this? The movie does ask us to make some type of moral judgment, I think, rather than just saying, I'm looking at it and it means nothing. There's no meaning there. I think there is meaning there. Definitely.
I think in certain scenes it does, yes. I think it does ask us to make a judgment. But in terms of just saying this person is bad or this person is good in the movie, I don't think the movie does that specifically.
I think it does. I think it is asking us to do it. But we'll agree to disagree. But moving forward, basically, Teresa decides to like take the plunge one day. She crosses over the barrier to go to the beach. And one of the bad thing about East African beaches is like they're only good when the tide comes in. So basically you can't even swim until like 4 p.m. And then like 3 hours later the tide recedes and then you're just left paddling in like shallow hot water up to your ankles. And so Teresa just crosses the line because apparently she wants to go to the beach, but there's no water out there for like a good mile. And so random African men are approaching her and saying, Sister, sister, welcome to Africa. I have beads to show you. I have beads to sell you. You buy one, I give you one free. Stuff like that, right? And she's getting crowded and harassed. And she's like, boys, stop. Leave me alone. And then, you know, she ends up meeting one guy on the beach. And, you know, this young guy is, like, very nice with her. She ends up buying something from him. And they end up meeting later. And he ends up taking her to, like, a bar. You know, they drink and they dance. And, like, she's throwing it back and stuff like that. And then they end up going to this hotel. And, you know, she pays to go to the hotel. And he gets a condom from the front desk agent and stuff like that. And they go back into the hotel room. And she doesn't want to have sex. And I'm really thinking about how they put that scene together now that now that I know how the director did it. But it was very interesting. Her first time trying to hook up with one of the African men, you know, she says, no, I can't do it, no. And there's sort of like a very uncomfortable scene where it looks like maybe he'll overpower her or take her and stuff like that. But like it's just like a typical, like, how can I say, like, you know, scene where a guy really wants some and the guy's like, no, and you're still trying to convince her and stuff like that. But yeah, what did you think of all of those moments?
Yeah, I think like the first time she goes out there and all these Kenyan guys just, you know, scramble her. She's enjoying it to an extent because I feel like that kind of happened to us. Like we were enjoying maybe the attention of being a tourist at first, but like after the first 10 minutes, it started to get annoying. But like I don't blame her for kind of trying it out because every person wants to be desired, and especially like a woman like her, I think, who is once again kind of not allowed to be desired in her own society. I feel like that probably kind of what motivated her to do that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, when she takes her chance, I just feel like in certain ways she's such a romantic and she acts like a teenage girl. Like kind of shy, dancing and drinking and I don't know, like, and when that like sort of sex scene happened, the way like she rejected, I felt like she rejected because she knew what it was and she didn't feel a connection. She didn't want to do it. Maybe she felt guilty because she knew that maybe it was like a sex work. So yeah, that's what it kind of felt like to me.
I think that scene showed us that she's not really there just for sex. And like you said, she's a romantic. And she sort of wants to relive, you know, those teenage years or those early 20 years when she was like flirty with guys. And also like she had options. I feel like she didn't want to have sex with that guy because she realized, wait, I shouldn't be giving it up this easy, even if this is what I want. You know what I mean? I should be back in control of my life and not just giving it to men. You know what I mean? And, you know, also watching this film, it made me think about the fact that, you know, these men are still men. Even though they're black men in Kenya next to these more privileged Europeans, these are still, you know, guys who are, you know, in control of themselves and have more power and privilege than the women in their own societies too. You know what I mean? And there was this scene when there was a woman, you know, watching Teresa and her first boyfriend like dancing and stuff like that. And it made me think about the fact that, you know, this guy can sort of like walk around with this European woman all through the slums and take her everywhere, and he's not going to get judged or challenged on it because he's a man in this society. You know what I'm saying? And there's that sort of respect that people have for men too. So I don't know what you thought about that. If the dynamic of them still being men, you know, played a part in the reactions Teresa gave and stuff like that, and how the world reacted to them as well.
Yeah, I think there's really, like you said, a part of that, and I feel like Teresa breaks that later on, because I think she is, no matter how Western she is, maybe because of her age as well, she is still like in a patriarchal society like anywhere else in the world, and there is that like sort of feeling women have of being, you know, liked by men and being controlled by men, because that's what is ingrained in our minds and heads. So there's always like that submissiveness when it comes to being with men, especially in such a vulnerable situation as, you know, maybe she's not feeling confident in herself because of her looks and her age, you know, no matter what the racial dynamic is, because that is still kind of like his neighborhood and his community. So there was that, but I do think that changes later on.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you wanted to just slap all men?
Many times.
Have you ever? Okay, and there have been many times when I just wanted to slap all white people. That's a fact. Would you want to go to a place where you could treat men like women for some time? As in, like, now you're basically like in control and you're the dominant one, and they sort of have to look in the mirror and say, am I getting fat? Will Akdi like me? You know what I mean?
Yes.
You would like to?
Yeah. I wouldn't want it to be permanent, but I would like it as an experiment for sure.
Okay. An experiment, right? It doesn't have to be permanent. It could be a short time thing that you would enjoy. I was thinking about watching this film. You know, these are, Teresa and the other women here are like white women who are just older in their society and they're not as desired anymore, but they can go somewhere and have control over people that would typically have domination over them. You know what I mean? Just on the very basic level of their gender. You know what I mean? And I was thinking about, what if I could go to a place where I could just slap all white people and just really, like, I don't know, treat them like niggas. If I could go to a place where I treat the wiggers like niggas, that shit would be great. You know what I'm saying? I was just wondering, you know, I'm still trying to sympathize, you know what I mean? Because I'm trying not to lose my humanity, even though we, you know, fight rapidly against white supremacy. I don't want to lose my humanity. So I'm trying to sympathize with her in this case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But tell me if I'm tripping.
No, like, I don't think you are.
In a way, do you think that what Teresa is doing is a type of like radical feminism, where she's like, you know, these men, because the men in Kenya practice female genital mutilation. You know, they cut off clitorises there. They beat women there. There's high femicide rates in Eastern Africa, like many other parts of the developing world too. Are they doing a radical type of feminism where they say we're going to go there and fuck around with these boys, treat them like whatever, and stuff like that?
I don't think so, because I feel like, first of all, I don't really feel empowered watching them doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And second of all, I don't think you can isolate gender from this whole thing and say, oh, this is feminism because it's females against men and females taking over men. Because this is why I said this is such a layered movie, and the whole thing itself, this is a real thing that happens in the world. It is layered. It does have like class differences, because like $10 in 10 euros in Austria goes a long way in Kenya. And there's also race balances. There's historical context to it. So I don't think you can strip all of those out and just say this is feminist.
I understand, but you know, at an essential level, you know, the women of Kenya are dealing with, you know, class issues as well, and also issues related to religion and you know, rape, ethnic divisions and stuff like that. But they're abused in Kenya and in other parts of the world. And for all the Kenyans, don't get upset at me. Women are abused everywhere in all parts of the world because they're women first. And so, if these women are coming here and saying we want to abuse the abusers of women in this society, is it a type of radicalism? I'm just posing the question. I'm posing the question. And you're still saying no. You still would say no.
I think no. Like that, I don't feel empowered by this. Yeah. So for me, that's my personal opinion. And this is not really like feminism for me.
Okay. I mean, it's a good point. It's just, you know, I've been thinking about a lot of ideas in my mind in relation to like how I think about feminism and things like that. And, you know, I think about like how in the South, a white woman could say a black man raped me, even though he had never seen her in her life, and she could have a man killed. And I think often about the psychology of a person that would do that. What would motivate a person to do that? And it's one thing I keep going back to. Is that a type of psychic revenge against masculinity, patriarchy in general? By white women having the power to kill a certain type of man, was that them trying to strike back against patriarchy in general?
Then why not do it for all men?
Because you couldn't do that. A white woman couldn't just say that white man raped me, because then the white man would say, no, I didn't. And then they would say, okay, Bob, you can go home.
Yeah, but when that happens, then different dynamics come into play. Then it's not just about gender. And I think we can't strip those things from each other. Like, I think, okay, then white feminism is feminism for all women. Like, you know, then, okay.
Right.
We're not going to be thinking about women in Kenya while she's doing all this for men in Kenya or to men in Kenya, but she doesn't really care about women in Kenya. Right. Like, you know, it just gives blank.
I'm posing the question, but I will give the answer to my own question, because I was just I'm putting it out there. But what do you think? You're about to say something?
I just want to clarify for the people in the back that feminism doesn't say women should be better than men or should be stronger or more in control than men. Feminism says everyone should be equal in terms of chances, in terms of economics, in terms of law, in terms of everything.
That's true. Nobody is saying that feminism says that women should now dominate over men. We don't want a matriarchy instead of patriarchy.
Yeah.
But in the struggle to actually gain freedom for women, some men will have to die, as will some women. Yeah. The same way, if we want to eliminate white supremacy, some white supremacists will have to die. So the fact is, like, the point I was trying to make is, like, in a type of struggle, are Teresa, Inge, the four Austrian Nazis that come down to grab big black cocks and twist them up until they break, like strew them, are they doing a type of militant type of attack on patriarchy? by breaking these men.
I understand your question. I just wanted to clarify that just in case, and I still think no.
Yes, and I agree with you. I posed the question. See, this is philosophy, what we're doing here. We're doing critical analysis in film philosophy, and my answer to my own question, which sounds crazy, like I'm talking to myself, is no. No, they were not attacking the patriarchy by going there to, fuck over these men, because they didn't fuck over these men. They got fucked and then got fucked over some more. And so, no. And plus, they didn't go there with that intention in mind. Your intention for any action dictates how we judge it. If you, if you had $1 million in your bag and it burst open and fell onto an orphanage and you didn't intend to do that, you didn't do a good deed because your $1 million fell on some homeless kids. It's because it was an accident. So no, you don't get credit for that. And so, I don't think there was any sort of damage they were doing to these men. I wouldn't say there's no damage that they're doing to these men, but the exploitation of both parties is happening to some degree, right? And let's talk about that more. So moving forward in the story, after Teresa tries to have her first sexual encounter with one of the Kenyan men and rejects them, she's like kind of despondent and stuff like that. She's out of it for a while, but then she says, fuck that, I'm gonna get some cock. And so she goes back across the rope again, and she goes back out on the beach. She gets harassed by a bunch of African men, and she says, no, I don't want it. And so she gets really mad at all these African men until one African guy, whose name is Monga, shows up and says, it's okay, I tell them go. You are free. You do what you want. You look here, you look there. I sell you nothing. And so then Teresa's like, oh, okay. And so she starts waddling around on the beach. And then her and Monga end up going out. And they, go out to party. They go out to drink. They have long walks and talks in his neighborhood. He takes her to the trenches. He took her to the O. And so... And they start getting like really close, and they end up like drinking palm wine and smoking weed at Monga's house. Monga got a house, okay, so she stepped up and found a baller. One thing I noticed in this film, every time Teresa gets a new man, it's a step up, low-key. Low-key, it's a step up.
I guess.
The first guy took her to like a cheap motel. She's like, I'm a classy lady. You have to hit me on an air mattress, boo. At least. You have to pay rent.
That's the thing. Like, female sex work is so different than male sex work.
Yeah.
Because we're not just here to bust a nut. Yeah. We need attention and erection in every type of way. Yeah. We need our minds stimulated.
Okay. But what did you think of the beginning of Monga and Teresa's relationship?
I mean, he's a player. He played the game. He said, I'm protecting you. And she fell for it. I felt like at first maybe she was hesitant, but then she said, okay, I can get it. And they have an interesting conversation where they are holding hands together and they're walking. And Teresa says, like, is that okay that we're holding hands and everyone thinks we're lovers? And he was like, yeah, like, it's totally fine, I'm not with you for money. It's not for money. It's okay.
And she brings up the age thing, and he tells her, age, love, no limits. No limits. Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, and things like, in Europe, love doesn't last, but here in Africa, it is forever. So it's like those type of selling points. Yes. He was making it. He was doing it. And she did fell for it. And I think there is still like that bit of a fetishization there as well, definitely, because I feel like maybe she was thinking, oh, it's gonna be like this wild, raw, attraction, sex, whatever.
But let's actually put some agency back in Teresa's subjectivity of these men. Are these guys actually cute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the first two are, yes.
Yes, like Monga, like the two main guys she's messing with are actually objectively, or by most people's standards, what we would say are handsome men. You know what I mean? So it's not like she's just sleeping with every black dude that comes her way. There was a lot of dudes she rejected as well. Yeah. But I do think the fetishization is important. But I do think there is a beauty that most people would ascribe to these men and say, yeah, I understand. I'd smash that too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I understand the attraction. I did think that conversation was sort of interesting, and I'm gonna go back to your point. I don't know, so if anyone like who is from Kenya or who knows anything about this can comment down below, but I'm not sure if it would be the same if a Kenyan girl came into the hood walking with a white dude, and then how it is with the Kenyan guys walking in with a white lady.
Yeah. We saw a few, or at least I did. I saw a few interracial couples while in Africa. And I did see, especially when we went to Diani Beach, which is like a very, touristic part of Kenya, on the Mombasa coast, whatever. You did see like those couples where it's like, oh, that 50-year-old white man has like the 20-year-old Nyashi, like
baddie,
baddie.
Yeah,
and it's like exactly what you would see in Thailand. Like if you go to Bangkok, you're gonna see the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So there is like that power dynamic in that relationship too that we saw in person, and also this one as well. I don't remember seeing any Teresa and Mungas walking around in Africa. Do you?
I feel like we did. I feel like I did.
I feel like I don't remember.
Like again, I think in Diani because it's such a long beach and we walked through it, and I feel like I did. Though I'm not sure.
I saw more when I was in Africa. I saw more older white men with, young Kenyan women than I did, older white women with young African men. When you go to the beaches, though, in Tanzania and in Kenya, you have the Maasai people there, and they're walking with like a group of like white women and stuff like that, trying to sell them stuff. But I didn't see anybody like holding hands other than me and my wife. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. This is the only one I saw.
I mean, definitely, I would say I remember more of older white men with younger Kenyan women.
Yeah. But the dynamic between Monga and Teresa, starts to get a lot more steamy and sexy as they hang out more. And there's this scene when, after going out drinking and smoking weed and partying and stuff, Teresa sits down on Munga's bed and she's like, oh, you're so beautiful. You're more beautiful than me. And he's like, no, stop. You are beautiful. And she's like, no, I'm old. I'm ugly. All these things sit up. But when I take it off, it drop. And he's like, really? Show me.
Prove it.
Prove it. And so then she takes off her bra and drops her titties. And he's like, no, they're nice. They're perfect. And she's like, you're so touchy. Don't touch, grab. You have to rub them. You
like
have to caress like a cat. Yeah, she's always like, she's like trying to teach him how to be sensual and stuff like that. And she's saying stuff like, the African men don't kiss. And this was like partially while in this thing, it felt like there was a lack of a recognition of his humanity. Of course, African men kiss. Of course, African men, like, you would know how to touch a woman and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think Teresa was ignorant too, because she kept asking him, how many white women have you had here? How many girls have you brought here? He's like, no, you're the first. Obvious lie. You know what I'm saying? But she was playing dumb. But I felt like at that point when she was saying stuff like, do African men kiss? Do African men know how to touch a woman? Are they always so rough? There was a lack of recognition of like, oh, this is a human. But I don't know if you looked at that, it's just like banter, if that's just flirting, you know what I mean? I don't know. What did you think of that? Because that was probably one of the most disturbing parts for me.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely like, it's not a normal sex scene. It's definitely weird. Because it felt like when they were like having drinks and Teresa smokes weed for the first time, it feels like she's a teenager. But when they start doing stuff actually, then she turns into this teacher, telling him what to do, how to do it, and kind of always telling him like, you're too rough, slow it down, too rough, I like it like this. And I felt like she was really making those comments, asking those questions about herself, and also like to him, oh, African men kiss. She was aware, like, and also kind of putting herself down knowingly so that he would compliment her, or like asking him does African men kiss so that he would kiss her, like showing
You
her.
think it was a type of 3D chess flirting?
Yeah, like I did get that vibe, but I think she was also kind of trying to create some sort of romance.
Yeah, I mean, women are complex in their mind.
Yeah, because like the first time she tried, it felt like they just went to the room and started getting naked, and she didn't like that. She wanted romance. So this time she was like, you know, grab one titty and kiss me at the same time, and now switch to the other titty, and like just making it sort of like a play.
Yeah. I think Teresa knows how to come. That's the thing. She's like, if you want me to come, listen, boy, I came all this way from Vienna to Mombasa. I'm a nut.
But it was funny, like, kind of how different cultures approach to sexuality.
I disagree. I don't think there was a different way. I just think she didn't recognize him as, like, a man. I disagree.
Okay, I'm not saying different cultures have different sex. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, like, when she said, can you kiss slower, he said, Muzungu kiss.
I think he was. See, now I'm gonna go into my man mind. You went into the woman mind. I'm going man mind. He said, "Oh, I'm gonna flip it on her. This white woman thinks me stupid black Tarzan. Oh yeah, you want me to kiss like white people, huh? I sure will, boss." That was the yes, massa. That's how I interpreted that.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that. But I just felt like it was kind of both way teasing a bit, but more so from Teresa.
Light race play? Is that light race play?
I don't think so. Stop.
That was light race play, low-key. Oh yeah.
My God.
African men
Teresa's life is race play.
Teresa's life is race. That's hilarious. Oh man. But no, that was a very interesting scene. But probably one of the most interesting scenes after that is like we don't see the sex scene. We assume it happens because Teresa is laying on the bed, butt ass naked, and she is knocked out, boy. She is knocked out. She don't hear nothing. She don't hear them cars honking outside in Mombasa, nothing. And Monga gently puts the mosquito net around her body as she lays naked on top of his bed, right? And then he goes, sits on the couch, lights a cigarette, has a glass of palm wine. He's sitting butt ass naked. And then there's just like an open shot of him in his living room sitting in the dark with his dick hanging over the couch. Just dragging on the floor. Just inches away from the floor. Just here's the floor and this is the tip of the cock. It's just dangling. I thought that was a very interesting scene. Because, you know what? I think by showing this man's penis like that, I think they were... I partially feel like it was a little bit of fetishization of this man for the audience as well. I think, you know, the director was obviously trying to make people be like, oh, see, that's why. And yeah, it's true. You know what I mean? Because Monga got a big dick.
Yeah.
Monga's got a big dick.
No one's denying that.
And that's the first dick we see. And then people, I think... the white people are watching, because as black people, we watch a film for our view, and then we have to think about what white people think about it, which is not what white people think when they watch films. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, y'all just be like, oh, I like this movie. I don't. And we have to be like, damn, what are they going to think about us now? You know what I mean?
The mental work.
Yeah, it is. Double consciousness.
Tiring me.
It is. But anyway, sorry, go ahead. What did you think of that scene? Anything?
That was one of my favorite scenes. Because,
of course, you saw a big dick.
No, it's not because of that. But I felt like that scene was so telling later on as well. And just, I really like his tenderness around Teresa, which he doesn't really owe anything. Like, he just gave her his body. But to a certain level, it felt like, I think we also talked about this last night, and you said this, that you said, like, she's the customer. So it's always the customer first kind of thing. And then when he sat down, it was like, you know, like, kind of, I'm done with work, but also it's kind of sad. And maybe he was also a bit isolating himself from her. Maybe he was feeling dirty. Like, we don't know what he's feeling, what he's thinking. I don't think anyone is assuming that he's attracted to Teresa.
No.
I wasn't.
No.
So yeah, no one was thinking he's in love with this woman.
Yeah.
And that was just like so raw, and it was just there, and I really, really like that scene. And I do agree with you on, like, just showing his genitals because, yeah, like, people, I feel like most of the time, specifically white people, are going to be like, yeah, I'm guessing it's big because that's also kind of the conversations Austrian women have earlier on as well, like just referencing their dicks and stuff like that. So, yeah, it does give us a proof. But I don't think the movie overall fetishizes black genitalia, and that comes later.
Why? Go ahead, say it now. So, because I want to get this done.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about black dick the rest of the film. This is not a white supremacist YouTube rant.
Because I think the film shows different kinds of black genitalia. Some of them are big, some of them are small, and all types of black bodies. And I feel like if the movie didn't show us that, then it would always be some sort of fetishization and fantasy thing, like, oh, I know they have a big dick. But because we're shown all kinds of genitalia, I feel like it demystifies things. Like, yes, because in every country there are men with big dick and there are men with small dick. Like, that's just the thing. So I feel like the movie does that as well.
I think as far as the last point you made, I think most people would say, yeah, in every country there's small dicks and big dicks, but there's more likely more big dicks in Africa is what some people would say. And I would argue against that. And I think, even playing with that idea is like playing into the worst types of stereotypes about our people and about humanity. But I think you made a very good point. I agree with you. You countered my point because, yeah, they do show different cocks. They do show different types of dicks in this movie. That's very true. But I do think, though, would this film be as good if they didn't show it? Would that have to be out there?
But that's the thing. It would leave a question mark. And that's unhealthy. Because most people have this anti-black thought. Yeah. I get what you're saying, too. Because by showing the dick, it's like, okay, Teresa, Inge, all the Austrian ladies, you're doing all of this just for that? Okay, maybe it's big, maybe it's small, maybe it's, you know what I mean? But you're doing all of this just for that? Like, and
come on.
Let's be honest, also, like, yeah, he had, Monga had a big dick, but it wasn't, like, gigantic. Like, it wasn't a cobra.
No, that shit was big, cuz.
No, it was, like, just a big dick. Like, it wasn't anything, like, wow, If you go to Pornhub,
Munga's there.
That's in Pornhub. That's average.
Yeah, Munga is there. He's the top page.
I don't agree, but
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking. No, but anyway, moving forward in the story, man, there's just not that much happens. Sort of like what you expect would happen does happen. So Monga and Teresa, start to hang out more and stuff like that. And Monga, after he keeps hitting her for a while, keeps knocking it down. And then one day he says, I want you to meet my family. And he takes her to go meet his sister. And he takes her to meet his sister and says, my sister, her mother is sick. Her mother might die. Give her money. And Teresa's like, oh, mother, death? Oh, here's money, 20,000. Oh, take another 30,000, and just comes out of her wallet. And she's like, I feel so bad, I didn't give more. And like, yeah, he ends up taking her to like a little school for little African children, and they just let this random white woman just walk all up in the school. The little kids are like taking their nap for pre-K and stuff like that, and she pulls out her little Nokia phone and snaps pictures again and stuff like that. And Monga is telling her, give the teacher money, and Teresa's like, I don't have any more. And then the teacher says, why you give me so little money? And shit like that. And yeah, she's still hanging out with Teresa's still hanging out with Inga and her other friends too. And there's this very cool scene when they go to this alligator park, which we went to as well, and they see the alligator show where they feed them live, dead chickens and stuff like that. And then right after that scene, there's a scene of Inga surrounded by like African men on motorcycles saying, "Baby, baby, come with me, come with me." And Inga is like, "Oh, boys, boys, stop." And yeah, there's so what did you think of any of those scenes?
Yeah, so we witnessed Teresa exploiting Monga, and then we witnessed Monga exploiting Teresa, in a way. And yeah, that is just crazy. Like, let me introduce you to my sister, and then sort of just asking for money. I understand the contexts and the nuances, of course. And when they went into the school, it was also like weird because, yeah, maybe Teresa is being like exploited in that moment because they're gonna ask her for money, but then she's also there taking pictures because, like, why? I don't really know, as well. And she's like, "Smile, smile," and the kids are singing her a song like she's some superstar or something, which is weird. Like, and yeah, I was like, oh, thank God she's not a child molester, because who knows what will happen. Yeah, it was definitely kind of sad to see her like wanting to give, but also obviously having like a doubt in her mind that she's probably might be being used. So yeah, it was hard to see, but not that surprising.
Yeah. I thought, the scenes when they let her into the school, it just took me back to like the worst parts of my trip to Kenya and Tanzania, when they just sort of let white people do whatever they want in Africa, and they sort of treat them like gods. Like, because imagine a black man from Kenya going to Austria and saying, "I want to go into the public school and take pictures of their children," like this, you know what I mean?
Imagine you walking into a Hungarian school and taking pictures of the kids.
Yes, now. Yes. And then they stand up and they see me and say, "Welcome to Hungary, welcome to Hungary, welcome to Hungary." You imagine that.
That's so weird.
Imagine that. But see, but I also think, like we watched that film Savior Complex about that white woman that went to Africa to help the kids, and she ends up killing 108. They said I killed 180 Ugandan children. And it's like, I do think a lot of white people want to go to Africa and play savior too. You know what I mean? They want to go there and be like, "I will help the children and solve all the problems in there." And that's what it sort of felt like too.
Yeah. Definitely. There was a part of that. Yeah, and then I guess like right after that we see the alligator scene, and now talking about it and seeing that scene again, I feel like the chicken was Teresa and the crocodile was Teresa.
No, the crocodiles were the African men, and the chicken was, basically the women, as I interpret it. Okay. I think this film does good metaphor through the scenes, because right after you see this chicken dangling in front of these hangry crocodiles, and one of them snatches them and he's the winner, right? The next thing we see little white Teresa or Inge or whatever, surrounded by these African men who are hungry. But I guess maybe you could also interpret it as the African men are the chicken, right? And because there's a bunch of women going there trying to get, the biggest mandingo they can find. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then again, exploitation goes both ways.
Yeah. But there's also, speaking of exploitation, Monga is getting money from Teresa and still having sex with her vociferously, furiously. And one day he passes out on the bed, and she rolls up the mosquito net where their bed is after they're done having sex. And while Monga is asleep, she takes a picture of his face with her little Nokia phone, and then she takes a picture with the flash of his penis while he's asleep, which was a big contrast from how Monga acted when she was asleep. Yeah. He tried to somewhat protect her and say, "Mazungu, you are safe here in Africa," and then she comes and says, "Big black cock, gotta show him that. I gotta post that, girl." So, what did you think?
I mean, that's why I said previously that was one of my favorite scenes, because it's so telling. That was just wild. Like, I don't know, with any person you're with, you don't take their picture while they're sleeping without their consent.
Yeah.
Please do not do that.
Don't do that.
To anybody. So yeah, that was definitely, obviously, 100% in your face, like, fetishization. And I do think there was a part of, like, maybe her taking a picture, and then when she goes back to Austria, like, she was gonna look at it and be like, I had that. Yeah, that was in me. You know, just crazy. Like sort of reliving her fantasy.
That's crazy.
As a young girl, I don't know.
I don't know, man. Did you ever collect dudes' dick pics?
I don't have a dick pic in my phone.
That's good.
I've never had one.
Well, dudes sent dick pics.
Well, not like they didn't send me through WhatsApp. Okay. It was just like, you know, those ones that disappear.
Oh, disappearing messages. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
And I never took a screenshot, like, because why would I? It's not that attractive.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, but that scene definitely, you know, once again, you go back and forth with Teresa, because on the scenes when she's giving money, you're like, oh, this naive woman, or maybe this, you know, woman who feels so guilt-ridden off how she's treating these men that she's just giving her money away now. You start to feel bad for her until she does that. You know what I mean? Then you're like, yeah, you kind of deserve it. Whatever happens next, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you think, you know, that's if that's okay, then how would you feel if somebody did that to you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, she would not be happy if she woke up and Monga was like, cheese.
And I feel like if she asked Monga would be okay.
Yeah, sure. It's Hakuna Matata.
Low key, like, it's just like her doing it in secret. That was just the part that made it like really discomfort.
Yeah. But you know, one day, you know, she's looking for Monga all through the trenches, and she can't find him anywhere. And she even goes to his sister's house and says, "Where's Monga?" And she said, "Monga no here. You go away. But first, give me money. Give money." And so then Teresa gives money again to Monga's sister, and she's just so distraught. Now she's been ghosted. She's been played, and she meets up with the first guy that she tried to hook up with. And he's saying, like, I love you, I miss you. Monga, he already has 2 children, and he has a wife, he's playing you. And she's like, you don't love me, you're lying to me, leave me alone. And it's like very high school. She's like, stop. But I kind of felt like she was kind of flirting with him too, a little bit. Like, she liked the chase.
She liked the attention.
She liked the attention, and she liked the chase as well, yes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this guy is telling her all of that. What did you think of when Monga disappeared?
I think that was like a big hit to her ego, because she was like, oh my God, I got ghosted by this like African, you know, person who I deem as lower than myself. And I can't believe that happened. Like, I understand maybe if white Austrian men do that to me, but him? Yeah. And he did that to me, and I feel like that's when we sort of saw Teresa transform into like just really not caring anymore.
Well, she transformed when she caught Monga lacking at the beach, walking with his sister and his niece, when really it was his son and his wife. And so we see Teresa turn into Adolf Hitler. She like grabs him by the hair. It says, your sister, nine, and slaps him across the face. Look at me in the eyes. And meanwhile, Monga is crying like a bitch. And all the Africans are just watching this, you know, white woman just slap this black man across the face several times on the beach. What'd you think of that scene?
That was crazy. I did not expect something like that to happen in this movie. But yeah, definitely. I was kind of surprised that nobody did anything, but then I wasn't as well. Yeah, I felt bad for the guy because he was obviously trying to make money for his family. I felt bad for Teresa because she was played. But then I also didn't feel bad for the guy, and I didn't feel bad for Teresa. You know, it was just...
It's weird.
Yeah, all kinds of emotions.
Because if this took place in, like, Turkey, right? Girl catches her guy that, you know, lied and said he wasn't married, and she slapped him, you'd be like, yeah, that's right, girl. He deserved it.
Yeah.
But because of the layers of this story,
yeah,
you understand why Monga lied. He's a broke man who's just trying to live. You know what I mean?
And I think this is kind of the complication of this type of sex work because it's not upfront. It's not like, here's the money and this is the sex. Because I feel like that's what, when we say sex work, that's what we mean. And you know, like, if the sex worker has a family, you don't care as the participant, as long as they don't care, right? But in this setting, it's like they're both aware, like definitely Monga is aware. Teresa is aware, but she like turns a blind eye to it. But then she does give him money, but she doesn't assume it's sex work. She assumes like they're in love and stuff like that. So it all gets complicated. And
yeah, it's like this situation where everybody's playing a game but doesn't want to admit they're players.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's what's weird. And that's why I'm saying I don't think Teresa is like a sex hunter, like going there, you know, as a sex tourist. She's a situational sex tourist in this situation. In fact, all the guys I think she messes with, she genuinely kind of likes in a boyfriend type of way. And also when I was watching this film, I was like, when are these guys going to try to do a 90-day fiancé and say, I love you so much, I'll sacrifice my life and go to Vienna with you. Like,
that's what I think the first guy was trying to do.
The first guy,
because he was so like, I will give you love and everything you want.
Yes,
you
yes.
know?
Yeah, he was really trying to get that visa.
Yeah.
First guy was. But Monga was just like, okay, I smashed and I got 40,000 out of it. Whatever. Yeah. But he was trying to give back to the community. Like the way Monga was slinging dick, it was like Robin Hood dick. He's like, I'm gonna fuck this Austrian woman and she gonna give money to the local trap school. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of cool, low key. That's hero behavior. Like, I'm gonna take one for the team, guys. I'm gonna slay this dick.
Wow,
and we getting out the ghetto with this one, boys. Geronimo, funny. Dive in the pussy.
That's funny. Would you do that for me?
For the community, for slaying some communist dick to get us out of it. That's hilarious. What, to get us out the churches? Would you do that
for your family and the community?
Well, sleep with old Austrian women?
Yes.
That's insane. I would not tell you I would not tell you a thing.
What?
I would not tell you what's going on. I'd be like,
how are you going to get the money? You have to introduce us. And you have to say, this is my cousin.
This is my cousin. She's very sick. Look at her. Sick.
She just turned white.
She turned white.
Sickness.
We need to reverse the sickness. Look at her. Look at her. So, I don't know. No, I would, if I was really desperate, I would do heterosexual sex work. Homosexual sex work, we just gotta die. We gotta starve.
Nobody said homosexual sex work.
I'm just saying. If
you brought that up.
No, but I'm just saying, because, like, of course, like, heterosexual sex work is gonna be hard as hell to get into. It's not that hard to sling pussy. You know what I mean? Especially in Kenya.
Okay.
Remember, I did a live stream. This is an old school live stream. I did a live stream about how there's sex tours that go to Kenya specifically for children, young boys and girls. Mostly Europeans that go there. So yeah, that's a big industry as well. And yeah, I think partially this film misses the point that a lot of sex work, while women's sex work is sexy and it's a bit more, you know, dramatic and you can make into a nuanced movie, like real sex work from sex tourists is some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. Like literally, you know, like I've gone to places like in Asia where I saw people literally selling their children into sex work, which is sick. You know what I mean? In places in America too, I saw somebody sell their own daughter into sex work in Minnesota. So the shit is actually really nasty if you think about it. But this film sort of gives like the glossy, you know, sort of bent to it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, like you said, I guess it just kind of shows the situational sex work and not really anything deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we covered some major things before we start to wrap up this film. Let's talk about a few minor things I noticed in the film, and if you have anything you noticed. One thing I noticed throughout the film, there are like these dramatic moments of like, you know, Teresa and Inge, you know, going outside, getting their groove on, you know, fucking with the city boys and stuff like that. And then they're at the hotel and they're being like, okay, it's bingo night. You know what I mean? Or like, hey, everybody, we're playing volleyball and bocce with our slippers. Come and play. And it's like this weird dynamic of like the raunchy stuff these women and these other tourists are doing out in Kenya and the official fun that they're having at the hotel. And I thought that was very interesting. And I thought it played a good dynamic balance of like what the country and the tourism industry advertises and what people really want when they go there. Mm-hmm, you know, the above board and under board.
Yeah,
so, and anything that you noticed in the film before we get to like some major parts?
Yeah, I mean, that's those scenes at the hotel just reminded me of when we were in Diani and we were by the beach, and we mostly stayed at like Airbnbs, sometimes in the ghetto, and just in local places. We never stayed at a 5-star hotel or anything like that. But one time we were stuck on the beach and the gate was closed, so we had to pass through this 5-star hotel. And obviously I knew like hotels like that existed, but just to see it with your own eyes and then go back to your little like ghetto house through the richness and then the poorness, and then that was just like such a, I don't know, mind-blowing, not real moment. And most of the people, I do feel like they want to be in this bubble where they want to have all the nature, all the beauty, all the service, all the fun, but they don't really want to engage with, you know, local people unless it's for a fantasy.
And the thing is, it could be just like walking through that hotel she's talking about, like it's basic shit, because like you're walking through that hotel and you're like, wait, they get electricity 24/7? Because, like, you go back to your apartment and it's like the electricity might work, nigga. It might work. Power not on till Tuesday, nigga. Come back Tuesday. Power back.
Yeah.
And, it's like, walking through, like she's staying at, like, those rich resorts, you know, that would make you have a good-ass time in Kenya and Tanzania, right, if you go. And, it's like when she crosses that line and goes into the trenches, right? And we see goats everywhere, burning trash, you know, people walking around with no shoes and stuff like that. It's like, that dichotomy of the poverty and the wealth in Africa is just jarring, you know?
Yeah, but I like how the movie shows it's not like in your face. Like here, Africa, poverty, and here, rich people. It's not really like that, but it's just like part of the scenery, basically. So I like how the movie shows that very subtly.
Very, very, very subtly. But moving forward in the story, after she whoops on Monga's ass, Inga turns into a badass. Like she goes up to her balcony and naked, and you know she's just with her big belly out, and she puts her feet up on the rail and is like, guess who's back, bitch? Big Teresa. Big Teresa out in the streets. And so now she crosses the line onto the beach, and she's like basically shooing away the guys like flies, saying, no, leave me alone. Like, and they're scared, like, okay, bitch, wait. And as she's walking across the beach, she meets one man, I forgot his name.
Salama.
Yeah, Salama. And, you know, this guy is like hella buff, and like Teresa's like, They tried to hold your bitch down. They can't hold a good bitch down. And she's just smiling and saying, lovely, lovely. As this man literally bends over backwards. Literally bends over backwards to impress this white woman. Literally bends over backwards and walks like a crab on the beach. And, you know, I feel like if you watch this movie and you don't know about like the beach culture in Africa, if you go there, you'll find these guys that do these acrobatic tricks for money for tourists. Like there's like bands of 3, 4, 5 guys that will stand on each other's heads and then do backflips jumping over, and then, you know, walk up to you and say, picture $500 as he looks up from you as he does a somersault and stuff like that. So there's crazy stuff on the beach, man. And yeah, she meets this big buff dude, and she directly goes home with him and, you know, wipes him down, rubs him down, and getting all sensual in the shower, and then she smashes it, and she's back in the game that quick. So what'd you think of that?
say she has game, I guess.
Yeah, she has game. It's called lack of melanin. She's got game. It's called euros.
Yeah. I feel like at this point, she's come to that level where she just accepted that this is the life.
Yeah.
If she wants to get dick, she cannot get too attached. Like, she cannot chase this romance that she was chasing with Monga. And I feel like now she's at the level where her friends were before. Because that's what her friends felt like. They were just like, they didn't care. They were okay. One of them bought like a motorcycle for their lover. And yeah, it was clear that they were doing sex work and they didn't have a problem with it. And I feel like at this point, that's where Teresa is. Because she's not really fooling herself now.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, I know it's going to come to the money.
I think, when I was watching this scene, how quickly Teresa bounced back with another dude, it reminded me of like my time in Indonesia and just seeing like, the British guys just bounce from like girl to girl really quick. And if like, I was out in the game as well, and it's like, yeah, you could just, like, you literally could have one girl in your house that night, fall out with her, and meet a brand new one, and they back up in the crib like nothing happened. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if
was that sex work?
No, it was not sex work. That it was not like I was paying them to come back. It's like you could literally, like with minimal effort and ease, it wasn't that hard. And it's like, I feel like, unless you've done that type of traveling, you know what I mean? Like light, that was my light passport bro era. I didn't know I was a passport bro then. And I still wouldn't consider myself one. But unless you've done that type of stuff, you might judge that, you know what I'm saying? Especially hard on a woman, I would say.
Were you like, or not just you specifically, but I'm talking in general, like a foreigner in Asia or in Tunisia, whatever, like, were you still paying some sort of money for the woman?
You might pay for a ride for her to get over there or something like that, or pay for dinner or food, but it's not like I'm going to give you money to have sex with me. No.
You were not introduced to any cousins.
What do you mean cousins?
Like, this is my cousin, he's very sick.
Oh, no. Because I was, I wasn't out there in the game that hard with it. Like, You
weren't dating, you were just having one night stands.
I was dating too. Okay. And also some one night stands, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to like brag on my dick or anything like that. I'm bringing it back to the movie. It's like the way it's hard to explain because like I kind of felt for Teresa, like she's having fun and living life. And if she meets these dudes that like her for whatever reason, and she wants to get up with them, how am I gonna fault her for it and judge her for it? When I did the same thing. And I don't know about you, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, how am I going to
were you dating like younger girls that were really young than you?
But it was a similar dynamic. Here I am, an American in Indonesia, making foreign money, $375 a week, which is, a lot of money down there. Cash every single week in my hand. That's I was in a privileged position.
No, so, I get that, but it's like this movie makes it a bit hard for the audience to think that these men could actually find Teresa attractive.
And in my case, they would find me attractive. You could, in a nice way, you could have just said, "Simon, you're sexy." It's different. That would have been much nicer.
No, I'm saying...
I'm not sexy, great.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm stating the difference between, like, you and Teresa, because I'm saying the woman you were dating could be attracted to you. And maybe some of them were, obviously. But in Teresa's case, we don't assume anyone she's dating is attracted to her. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the difference.
I got you. I get what you're saying. But, attraction is more than just physical appearance, right? As you know. And so maybe they're attracted to her just because, white woman, I wonder what the sex is like with her. Oh, she is kind of different. She looks different. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't like that.
When we were in Africa, We took a bite somewhere. I hop off the bike to go to the bank, and a man said to you, "I like white women." Come on now, like of course that's out.
I get that, but I am me and she is Teresa. I'm not trying to say like I'm young and sexy and beautiful, but like, yeah, I feel like it's more just in the day that we are living. I'm not saying this is the right thing to do or right thing to think, but in general, we don't see older women as attractive.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree, and I get the point that you're making is that like these guys. You know, if Teresa were just another Kenyan woman who was 40, 50 years old, overweight, they wouldn't be chasing down her. They wouldn't be chasing down the overweight Kenyan woman.
Or if they had an option of being with a younger white woman, they would go for the younger white woman.
Right. And the thing is, you know, I don't even think Teresa might specifically be attracted to black men, right? But she knows in Africa, you know, she has higher rate.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard to find a black man in Vienna. There's millions of black people all over Europe. You get what I'm saying? So. But
those black people or those black men have options.
Yeah, exactly.
So like Teresa is a 2 in Vienna and an 8 in Kenya.
Yeah. The thing is though, like, once again, I think this film allows you to ask this question. At what point do we stop judging people for being happy? You know what I mean? And listen, man, like for me, as, you know, somebody who considers myself an aspiring black scholar, I know all the ways to attack Teresa as like a white imperialist, colonialist, playing into the worst stereotypes about black men and their sexuality and abusing the modern world that we live in for her own advantage at the disadvantage of these poor black men. I understand all of that. But at what point do we say, like, yo, the girl's just living her life. You know what I mean? And it's not that deep. And she might not even be aware of what she's doing. So if she's not aware of what she's doing, the same way the bank robber who drops $1 million didn't actually help anybody, if she doesn't know she's playing into all this stuff, is she actually hurting anybody? You know what I mean?
I'm not saying that she doesn't have a right to be happy or she doesn't have a right to, you know, have sex with young men or anything. Because we know men do that all the time. So that's not what I'm defending. But I just don't like, from her, as a person, as a human at her age, I feel like it's very naive to be in that mindset. And that might be just her. That might be just like Teresa being naive.
I don't think she's naive. I think she knows the advantages. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't say it throughout the film, but you know, Inga and all the other white women there know that the advantage they have here is that they're foreign, they're white, and they have money in a land where these men don't.
It feels like she's aware at certain times, but then you see her beating Monga at the beach, and it's like, did she really think they were in love and in a relationship? Like,
I think she felt that. But she learned the hard way. She is a bit naive, but her naivete is fixed quickly and is proved here. Because when she finds out after her and Salama have sex, Salama is taking her out to drink and he says, "My brother got into a car accident. He need money." We never see Salama again.
Yeah, she just leaves that night.
She's like, I'll go get some money right now, and leaves, goes, bye. Boy, bye. It would have been funny if Teresa turned around, "Nigga, please." I would have screamed. I would have told the director, "Just go for it. We're here already. Go for it." Teresa says, 9, nigga. That should have been great. But yeah, you know, Teresa is like now, because Salama told her this fake bullshit story trying to get money out of her too, she's now really depressed and stuff like that. She's also trying to call her daughter on the phone and her daughter's not answering, and it's Teresa's birthday, and she's sort of alone in her room and nobody there to celebrate until knock, knock, knock. Guess who's there? Inga. Inga who? Inga brought you a nigga. And so Inga,
oh my God.
And so Inga walks in with a birthday cake and also a black man chained up. Well, they were pulling him by a rope when he came in, I think.
That was about
that makes it much better, doesn't it, acting? Yeah, that made it so much better.
It was his own belt.
Okay. Anyway, Inga comes through with like 3 other Austrian women, and they got this, very skinny little African man, and they're saying, "He's yours, Teresa, from the head to the cock. It's yours. Ja, da, ja."
German accent.
Well, I can't wait to learn German. I'm gonna learn some German and just talk mad shit. But yeah, they basically, one of the longest scenes in the film is this, skinny African man, dancing.
Long and torturous.
Yeah, he gets naked and does a strip show on Teresa's bed and, flops his penis around, and all the German women are hooping and hollering and getting excited and having drinks, and they're making commentary saying, "It's not that big, is it?" And they're saying, "Oh, we should try to get him hard." So then they start playing games with him to try to get him hard. They pretend to, give him fellatio. They tie a ribbon around his little dick and, make it bounce and stuff like that. And, eventually they jerk him off and he comes and, they say, "Well, that was interesting." And
he doesn't come.
Yes, they did. He did come. Yes, he did, because she looked at it and said, "Oh, it looks tasty."
Oh, I thought he did not.
No,
anyway.
He nutted and it squirted on the floor, and one woman was like, "Yeah, that's nigga nut."
Oh my god, okay.
I'm sorry. And so, they start making more comments about him, like maybe he's gay, that's why he's not hard. One of the women ties him up with a belt and stands over him like a slave master and stuff, and it gets kind of nasty there. So what did you think of that scene?
Oh yeah, I feel like this scene kind of shows the true ugliness that is inside these women. I'm not saying like they are because in the movie, we're constantly going back, like, is Teresa good or bad? But this scene sort of, shows up all the ugliness. And it feels like this is maybe when they truly become white men. The guy doesn't understand what they're saying, but they're torturing him and they're laughing, like torturing in an emotional, psychological sense, humiliating him. And he's, I think the audience, at least I was thinking, he's just putting up with this because he's going to get paid at the end. So he's probably blocking all of this out and just, kind of taking advantage of the fact that he doesn't know their language. And yeah, it's very, especially the first time I watched it, it was really hard to watch because I felt nauseous watching it. It feels very colonial, very... old-timey racists.
Yeah, I mean, this type of... The thing is, when you're watching what's happening in this scene, this is probably something that played out countless times across various spaces with the black male body by white women in power, right? What we don't think about often is the sexual abuse that black men went through during slavery, right? That lasted for hundreds of years in various places. And so, yeah, this scene is hard to watch because it comes from a real place. Like you said, it feels very colonial. These old white women living out their fantasies of being white men, being able to control the native body and have him, flaunt his exoticness in front of them and have this beast sort of under control and stuff like that. So it is very hard to watch, even though we're watching it right now.
Yeah.
But when you watch it the second time, and you feel like it's a bit silly, especially when you know how the film was made too, because the director was like, "Okay, ladies, here's a stripper," and it's kind of all fun. But then it's also you think on one hand, are these girls just trying to have fun? And some women like to be dominatrixes, some women like to be sensual and sexy. Is it just that on the surface level? Or is it are these women letting out their inner racism? Because the director gave them no script. None of them memorized anything. And if what you had to say was, oh, he's a greasy black son of a bitch or something like that, then what does that say about you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, any comments?
I have to say that there was also, I couldn't stop but thinking, like, obviously, like I said, this felt very colonial, very racist, but at the same time, I felt like there was something being said when it became like this competition of who's going to be able to get him hard. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't help but think, okay, in this room, this man is powerless, but they are still somehow trying to please him and getting into competition with each other about who's going to be the person that will be able to please him. So that was also kind of in the back of my head in certain parts of this scene.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because, you know, sex is about a lot of things, but it's mostly about power, right? And in sex, you know, the one with the penis, in a lot of ways, has the power, because the sex won't work unless the penis is hard, right? And so the arousal of this man is the most important thing, and that's a very good point. I didn't think about that. These women, even when they have control, could have made this guy say, oh, whose pussy is he gonna eat first? Whose titties is he gonna suck next? Instead, it's like, how can we get him hard? And he must be gay because he can't get hard. Which he did get hard. Not hard. He was semi-hard.
I don't think he was enjoying himself. Like, I wouldn't blame him if he just wasn't feeling it. It's such a weird
He was harder than I would be in this situation. That's for sure.
He's probably seen it multiple times.
But yeah, that was a very. I think that scene though, obviously goes back to what I was saying earlier, that this film wants you to have a moral judgment of the characters. This film doesn't just want you to walk away and say, oh, blank slate, you know, there's some good, there's some bad. I think this scene, because it was added, definitely makes you say, yeah, Teresa, Inge, all of y'all are kind of in the wrong in this situation. Y'all know what y'all are doing is kind of fucked up. And just because y'all are women, just because you're not liked in your countries, you're no longer sexy and hot, that doesn't give you the right to, you know, sort of treat people this way at the end of the day. So that's why I think this film is giving a moral judgment on sex tourists, ultimately saying that they might go for love, they might not even pay a sex worker, but what they're doing in a lot of ways is still exploitative. So
rewatching this scene and talking about it, I think I do agree with you. Mm-hmm. And I love to debate you, but I think I do agree with you, because now just thinking back at it, there are just certain places that people go specifically for sex tourism, and most of them are not the Western countries or developed countries. So yeah, and there is an advantage taken from there, both for men who do this and also for women who do this, and none of them is exempt. You're not guilty for seeking out pleasure or wanting to be wanted or desired, but I do think your choices matter. Yeah,
and how you get it matters. And I know some people might be watching this and being like, this is so hypocritical for Simon and Akdi to be throwing judgment about sex tourists, because in a way our relationship is built on some type of imbalance. I'm coming from a Western privileged, you know, country and stuff like that, and have had more access to money and opportunities, and you're coming from Turkey, and you know, it's a kind of developed country, but it's not as rich as America and like Europe and stuff like that. Some people will be like, well, Simon, aren't you being as exploitative? Aren't you taking advantage of your wife? Isn't this Akdi? Aren't you just as guilty as the African men who are out there trying to game these men for checks and money?
Oh my God.
I mean, somebody might say...
Context matters. Yeah. I am not a sex worker, and you were not doing sex work when you met me.
I wasn't.
You weren't like, you know, searching for sex work when you met me. Why do you say it like that?
I was joking. Go ahead.
No, we were dating. We were normal people who met on Tinder and started dating. Like, it wasn't any really financial or, you know, power dynamic like that.
Yeah. I was the one begging her to get married, and it was for a lot of reasons. It's because I love her, but also because it would be easier for us to stay together if we were married too. You know what I mean? And she was the one. It's not like she was the one that's like, I love you. I give you everything. Like, she wasn't like that. I love you. What is your name again? I love you. No, it wasn't like that. It was me asking her to marry me over and over again until she eventually said, okay, leave me alone. Don't talk to me again. I'll marry you. Shut up. So that's how it works. Yeah, I think this is our situation is different than Teresa and all the African men. And I do think one more thing is that this film wants us to make moral judgment, because the last scene is even worse than the stripper scene. Because in the last scene, she goes and picks up one of the random guys who aren't even really sex workers there. He's just a guy who works in the hotel. He might be a bit slow. He seems a bit young, too young. Almost like a child.
He's the bartender that they made fun of.
Yeah,
earlier.
He's the bartender that they made fun of because he was so black, he's greasy and stuff like that. And the boy seems like he's 16, 17, and a bit missing a few chromosomes. And she calls him into his room and is like, have you ever touched a white lady, Josephat? And he's like, no, ma'am. And she's like, do you want to kiss a white lady? And she lays down on the bed just like a beached whale. Just, you want to kiss a white lady? And so he's like, oh, okay. And so the little boy is terrified out of his mind. And he's like kissing her, and she's like, kiss my feet. And so he kisses her feet. And then she's like, kiss my leg, go up, up. Ooh, ooh. Do the other leg. Kiss my feet, up, up. Now kiss the middle. And Josephat is like, I can't do that. And we stood up. We applaud. We said, you go, Josephat. You go, Josephat.
Don't you dare give up.
Out of all the men, he's the most man. Out of all the men in this film, that's the one true man in this film. It took a little boy. To be the most manly in this film. Ain't that something? And then she says, you go, Josephat, you go, you leave me alone. Get out of my room and don't take the money out of my wallet. And Josephat leaves with his dignity intact. So yeah, I think this film really wants us to, at the end, sort of feel sad for Teresa, but not, sympathize with her, but more like pity her for what she became. But go ahead, any comments?
Yeah, I think it was interesting that the last person that was in Teresa's sex thing was the guy who actually had a job at the hotel. Because most of the other guys, it feels like they don't have jobs. Or maybe they're just selling necklaces outside of the beach. So it feels like, okay, they're really down bad and they really need this. But this guy, I thought okay, at least he's getting paid something. But I think that shows again how much of a maybe pressure even being Western and being white has on him, at least personally, because maybe he doesn't need it that bad. So yeah, that was interesting, and just the way her demeanor changed so much from when we see her with Monga. Now she's Josephat, just take this towel, take a shower, and then come back. It's sort of now she's acting very brutal. She's acting very rude. And yeah, she's acting like a true, I don't know, dominatrix.
So chauvinist. She's
chauvinist. Yeah.
She just thinks she's better now, and she thinks, and the film really wants us to say she took her race into consideration. If she didn't go in there with that kind of that in her mind, at the end she already had it in her mind when she's telling Josephat, do you want to kiss a white lady? Making it the point she's somehow special because she's white. I know you want to kiss me because I'm a white lady.
Yeah.
And it's a good point you brought up Josephat's job. I didn't even think about that. I didn't connect that. I put it that the boy's slow and he don't want to eat coochie.
I mean, no, but we saw him working at the hotel previously.
Yeah, but there's a lot of slow people that get those type of jobs.
It doesn't matter. It means he has a job.
Okay.
He's not truly a sex worker. He's a bartender.
Yeah.
But then he's sort of lured into to bed with this Western European woman.
I felt like Josephat was scared because probably at the hotel they tell them over and over again, keep the Mzungu happy. Keep them happy.
Yeah.
Hakuna Matata, no problem, no problem. And so when she said, Josephat, come with me, however it happened, he was like, I guess I go with her. We keep the Mzungu happy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was a very terrifying situation, but I was very proud of Josephat.
Yeah. I think you can really feel his like worry and his like hesitation, his afraidness. And I am also very proud of him for not doing that. Mm-hmm. And I think you can also feel Teresa's desperation at this point because she's like, I tried to live my teenage fantasy, young girl fantasy. Nothing came out of it. All I got was robbed. Yeah. And now, like, I'm going to give money and get what I want. But, like, then that didn't work either. Yeah. So now I feel like she feels even less confident in herself than before.
Mm-hmm. I think, this film, I think it's tragic in the sense that in the search to be a woman, a desired, beautiful woman in the eyes of somebody, Teresa became like an ugly creature. Mm-hmm. And in this story, the men that we're introduced to aren't really men. They're sort of like boys, like kind of juvenile type people, the way they're acting and, playing a game but not admitting they're players. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the story, we see men rise up in a way, like men with dignity, like, because being a man, I don't, talk about subjecting women. It's about, being dignified and standing up for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I feel like the final scene with Josephat, pushing away Teresa, and then we see, like, the black soldiers of Kenya, like, protecting the hotel and marching and stuff like that. Like, we see that there are men in this country, you know what I'm saying, mm-hmm. who aren't just going to bow to the Mzungu and be sex workers and be depraved, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And in the quest for love through sex work or sex tourism, Teresa sort of like brought herself down. It was a slow spiral downwards, you know what I'm saying, that she was going through. I don't know, that's my sort of takeaway from it, how I look at this film, like, that's just how I see it. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, I see that too, and I mean, I didn't really see like the men part that you were pointing out, but now that you did, I can, mm-hmm. Because they do quite like couple of times those soldiers or security guards, mm-hmm. And also at the end, I felt. For me, the takeaway was kind of like she tried to fill a certain void in her life, whether that was emotional, whether that was like, she gave all of her life for her family and for her daughter, and even her daughter doesn't see her, doesn't call her on her birthday. Mm-hmm. So she has this emotional void, and on top of it, she's sort of deemed undesirable by her society, and she just took that and projected that onto exploitation of Kenyan men and sex workers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she tried to fill that void in an unhealthy way and in an exploitative way, and she sort of got her karma. Like, that's kind of what I was feeling at the end.
It's a karmic, tragic tale of seeking love and getting lost.
Yeah, like, I don't want women like her age or a woman that look like her to feel that way, that they're undesirable, but I also don't appreciate what she did. So yeah, like, the real feminism, the real empowerment should be solving that issue within your community, within your society, not going to another country.
Or also within yourself and just having some self-love. And we don't know exactly what happened all in Teresa's life, whether her husband left her, she got cheated on a bunch of times, whether she dumped every man she ever was with. We don't know, but maybe there's an underlying issue with her personality, right, that we're not noticing. Maybe she has like this juvenile naivete, whatever, in her. And I'm not trying to just blame her for everything, but it seems like there's some unresolved stuff within her in this story that's preventing her from being able to keep love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's impossible to keep somebody else's love. You can only love yourself and try to be as good to other people as you can, but I don't know.
Yeah, so that's what I kind of got from this movie.
Yeah, so overall, I give this film a solid 8.5, maybe a strong 8.8, close to a 9. I really, really like it. I do think a lot of people should watch it. I think this is a continuation of our Black or African stories that are not centered on African characters or Black characters. And I think that's important to have, like Disgrace, like Love Paradise, Mofi as well. You know, African stories that have that are still Black stories but don't center Black people. You know what I mean? I find those to be the most fascinating type of movies, low-key, for me. But
okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this movie a 9.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that I enjoyed it more the second time I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though first time it felt more brutal, and second time I was able to overcome the shock of some of the scenes and sort of watch it for those messages and details. So I would definitely recommend like a second watch. If you're trying to like dive deeper in it. It's definitely very layered, a good conversation starter. I think it tells a lot about like today's world, older woman, and like just these clashing, you know, layers of class, race, gender, yeah, everything. So I do really like it, and it does have, in my opinion, very good cinematography as well.
Very good cinematography, and good acting. Even though most of the people here were like, this was their first and only movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, they did act this out very well. It felt so believable and real. Maybe because everybody was just playing themselves. They were just literally playing themselves, and that's why it came out the way it did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Ulrich Seidl for directing and writing this. I do want to check out more of his work. He has a very interesting style. Shout out to Peter Kazungu, who played Monga, one of the Black men that Teresa was dating. And shout out to Margaret Teasel for her acting as well. And yeah, more Austrian movies on the way. I think they have a pretty interesting cinema scene going on there. So, yeah. Any last comments before we go?
No, just watch this movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah. All right. So this has been episode 128, Paradise Love. Got any films you think we should review? Put it in the comment section. We'll try to get to it. And peace. Love.